So I just wanted to make this video because I was asked a question that I wasn't expecting in a venue that I won't name, but I was kind of taken aback by it. Didn't expect to be asked it, and I didn't think that I was able to give a very good answer because it's an issue that's very important to me. I'm extremely passionate about it. It has to do with the fundamental God-given right of self-defense. I was asked why I carry a firearm. I am a concealed weapons permit holder. I teach the class for concealed weapons permits in the state of North Dakota, and I do a lot of training, teaching, and run competition pistol matches, all in an effort to help people to be able to defend themselves. And so when I was asked this question, why I carry, there's so many reasons for it that I don't think I was really prepared well to answer that question, so I want to do so now. But first, we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different experiences. We all have different biases or sets of information. Mine has certainly changed over time as I moved from a more liberal East Coast, living in Maryland, and had different experiences throughout the country. But in order to understand why I carry and why I'm so passionate about it, you might need to know some personal things. And I just kind of put some of these in forms of questions. Have you ever felt what it feels like to be driving a vehicle, giving your friend and his friend a ride, and had the cold steel of a knife blade pressed against your throat from the person in the seat behind you, threatening your life, and having to decide what you were going to do and how you were going to get out of the situation? I have. Have you ever received a tip that your sister's criminal boyfriend had just illegally taken possession of a firearm and with 3 other people was coming to take your life, to hurt your family? Well, I have. Do you know what it feels like to call the police, which is what I was always told to do, and explain that this individual was coming to our home to harm our family and myself, and that he was armed, and he was with a group, and have the police tell you that, well, the threat isn't against the law, and we're not coming, we're not going to do anything about it, and then being left with that fear of not knowing what was going to happen and how to prepare to try to defend your life, my own life, and that of my mother and other family members. Do you know what it feels like to see a man who's in public being held with a gun to his head and looks like he's about to be executed right outside in your apartment complex, and then rushing inside your apartment and hoping that when the police come, he doesn't try to break in or seek shelter in your apartment? Well, I know what that feels like. Do you know what it feels like to, late at night, see a home invader casing out and stalking your home, and to watch them as they get out of their vehicle with me and my wife standing there, uncertain of what was about to happen, but watch them get out of the driver's side of their truck in the dark of night, aim towards your house? I know what that feels like. Have you ever had a 300-pound masked man take a loaded handgun with his finger on the trigger and shove it against your chest, where you could feel your heartbeat against the muzzle of his gun? with your hands up, wondering if you were going to live, and feeling completely helpless. Do you know what it's like to call the police? In a situation like that, I can tell you, your adrenaline is going so fast that it feels like forever before you even hear the first ring from 911. Have you ever been standing behind a cash register at work and had two men come in and one of them pull out a knife, come behind the counter and try to stab you, while the other one supposedly had a gun but wasn't seen? Have you ever been at work and had a man who had just murdered by stabbing to death and throwing off a bridge a 19-year-old kid just to see what it felt like to kill someone? Come within 12 hours of that event after you and stand toe-to-toe and look eye-to-eye into the face of pure evil? Well, I've had all of those experiences and many more. And it's because of that that I know that violence is real. That I'm not in denial about the reality of what other human beings may do. I'm not paranoid. I'm realistic. I take precautions to avoid situations and opportunities where something like that may happen again. But I know that despite all of my best efforts to avoid violence, it could still find me in sudden, unexpected ways and in situations that would be extremely fast. In fact, it's been estimated that when a critical dynamic incident occurs, on average, you have about 7 seconds to respond if you're at your home. Even less if you're out on the street. That in a gunfight, the average length of a gunfight is 2.5 seconds. And I also know that if you don't have a gun, you're not going to be winning in that 2.5 seconds. I know that when seconds count, the police are minutes away, ready to arrest people, ready to take reports, ready to call emergency medical services, ready to have investigators come, analyze a scene, get fingerprints, witness statements, and to take away your body. But what I do know is they can't get there in time to save most people when these type of incidents unfold. Why do I carry? I carry because of love. I love my family. I love those around me. And that love is what propels me to want to be able to save others. Some people with an initial, cursory intellectual look might say, well, you teach basic life support. You teach and instruct people in advanced cardiac life support. Those are things that save lives, and I've been involved in cases where they've done exactly that. And why do you carry a gun? It seems contrary, it seems opposite, because a gun can take a life. It can, when used, be a source of deadly force. But there really is, when you look into it, no contradiction at all. I carry a gun to save lives. To save my life. To save the lives of those around me. So that they can go home to their families at night. So, there's a book called On Killing written by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. If you'd like to understand the human psychology behind some of violence and how we tend to react to violence, one thing you'll learn from that book is that most people in our society don't have the capacity for violence, not up close personal killing. Most people don't like to think of it. They go into denial. You don't generally hear of people developing post-traumatic stress disorder because a hurricane came and ravaged their city. They don't get PTSD from tornadoes that ripped through Oklahoma, because those acts, though terribly violent in and of themselves and can cause great destruction, don't affect us quite the same way as interpersonal violence does. What we as humans greatly fear, and what, when we witness it and see it, has a great impact upon us, is when another human being, another member of our species, stabs, beats, kills one of us. That's a huge fear. In fact, it's so powerful that most of us actually live in denial. Certainly, we probably don't, people in denial don't want to really admit that. We think that, yes, I know that violence happens, but in reality we think it's probably not going to happen to me. That's something that happens to other people until it is you. But denial is not preparation. Denial is not safety. The chance of me burning to death in a fire at work, or at a school, or at a church, is extremely low. In fact, in the last 20 years, nobody's died in a school fire. Period. Zero. And the reason is because we prepare for it. We prepare for it from how the school is constructed. We prepare for it in the materials that are used. We prepare for it with drills. We prepare for it with where the fire station is going to be located. The fire extinguishers. We train on how to use those tools, because in the extremely unlikely event of a fire, we know how to save lives. As many lives as can possibly be saved. We do a great job protecting against fire. What we don't do a great job against is protecting against interpersonal violence. And the reason is largely because of denial. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to acknowledge it exists. And we come up with solutions that don't work. I'd be happy to talk to anybody who has concerns. I've read several books. I've studied many research papers. And I'm very familiar from years of experience with the literature and with the basis and experience of firearms and people defending themselves and the safety and all the arguments, both for and against. But where I am on this, because of what I've been through, because of what I've seen, I'm not in denial. I know that these things can happen, and I'm prepared for them. I pray that they never happen, but just as the fireman is prepared against fire, and just as I prepare and do fire drills, I also do drills to make sure that I can defend myself, my family, and anyone else against murderous individuals who may seek to take their life unlawfully.